A-To-Zed Reseller Podcast, episode 42. I'm Jamie.
And I'm John.
And we're going to talk about a whole new world of reselling. Things have definitely changed in the last couple of weeks since we've talked. Like, I guess we've talked just text back and forth through either Messenger or Instagram, but I haven't talked face to face in a couple of weeks, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's been a weird couple of weeks. Again, not really knowing like how the new developments of the new U.S. administration are going to affect reselling and just all the rest. Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly. And it's funny. I think for myself as a Canadian, even when Trump was in office the first time, I sat back and laughed. Not laughed, but I was like the guy with the popcorn, the Michael Jackson meme.
Right.
Well, I'm just watching the train wreck, and it never really directly affected us in any way. You've seen some pretty crazy stuff he was doing. So this it's probably not, but this is definitely the first thing that's impacted me directly for sure of anything that he's done. I'm sure there's lots of other things he did in his last stint in office that did affect Canada in some way. I know they renegotiated the free trade agreement right last time.
Yeah.
And somehow that went from the best deal of all time to who made this deal? It's the worst deal of all time. How can it be both? Well, guess what? You made that deal, buddy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, obviously, I don't want to get too political, but I don't. I would not have chosen this administration if it were up to me. But last time, it didn't really seem to affect me personally. I mean, a lot of things happened that I didn't agree with, but it didn't really affect me personally. But now, I mean, if the tariffs come in and if all these other things happen, I mean, it could have a pretty significant impact, not just on reselling, but on, actual like relations with the U.S. and U.S. customers and just people in general. So yeah, I mean, it could be pretty nuts here over the next few months or years or whatever's left.
Yeah, I know, it's wild. So the one thing that's already affected me, and it will affect you at some point if it hasn't. So like today this was the first time that happened to me today when I was getting my orders ready for Stallion. You had to put the origin of where whatever you're shipping, where it came from. And if China is the place it came from, it's instantly going to have, tariffs put on it, even if it's a used item, which I think is crazy. It's not just new items. And I assume that's what's going to happen too. If we get to the point where Canadian stuff is like that too. So that's, the one thing on my shipping end that's changed. The other thing is everything I shipped since the fourth hasn't even moved. Anything going to the U.S., I should say. Canada stuff in Canada has been absolutely fine. Anything I've shipped to the U.S. has just sat there and not moved whatsoever.
Yeah, I've got a Stallion, like a UPS pickup that was supposed to be at Stallion today. I haven't checked yet to see if it's been, delivered yet, but come tomorrow or Saturday or even Monday, I was going to probably log in and check the status of, okay, has this all been processed? Is it in transit?
Yeah.
And it would be interesting to see how that happens. What ends up kind of sitting at the border or whatever, because so I've turned my US Posh closet off as a result of this. I already had, some issues with delays, just having to ship the way that I do to get it across the border from where I am. And, but with this, I'm not taking any chances.
Yeah, I decided to turn mine back on the second that I knew that it was going to be business as usual for a month. My only thought process was, okay, if I drastically need to change things a month from now, that's when I'll deal with it. Because the other option would be whatever route I decide to go. For me, I was just thinking about delisting everything and doing nothing but starting over and making sure everything was where it needed to be. And I had things figured out for the way I felt like I needed to do it. Now that that's been put on hold, that whole idea of like doing that for me is just, I'm just going to wait to see what happens, because honestly, I want to do the things the way I'm doing it now, but if it's going to be a headache, it's not really worth it. And then at some point you got to think like, our US customer base buying from us on eBay, if they think all of a sudden, if tariffs did come in, if they think all of a sudden, well, I'm just going to avoid buying from Canadians because, that's just another headache, right? It's not much different than, when there's duty on something, but it's still a pain. And I think you'd be going after the wrong marketplace at that point.
Definitely. And I mean, I think the proposed tariffs were on mostly like, food and oil and things like that. So, I mean, the ones that were already proposed probably wouldn't even apply to, like, say, used T-shirts or something. But
you wouldn't think so. But I mean, they currently are in China. It's anything new or used. It doesn't matter what it is. So who knows? It's just not laid out very clear. It's a problem, right?
Exactly. I mean, because so if I'm selling a used T-shirt that I bought, at say Walmart in Canada 10 years ago, and it was made in China, but it's been here in Canada for the last 10 years, and then I sell it. I mean, does that count as coming from Canada or from China because it was originally made in China? Like, does it even apply because it's a category like used clothing that isn't having tariffs? But then does it apply because it's a Chinese product, so it does get the 10% tariffs? Like, it's so weird how, like, I don't know how they're even going to figure that out. It's just crazy.
Well, the one thing I can tell you for sure, whether this is just because it's also new and there's a backlog, this takes extra time at the border, right? Regardless, if things are coming in, they're going to be looked at differently. And then what happens if you don't comply, right? Does it get charged anyway? Do they send it back to you and say you can't send this?
Right.
Be all kinds of new layers of issues.
Exactly. And so that is one of the main reasons why I decided, you know what, I'm just going to turn the Posh US closet off, because there's way too many unknowns. And, I was going to check in with folks like you and Tabs and others who do maybe have a little bit more of a spine about this than me. And, we're going to see what happens sending across. I mean, you guys can be my guinea pigs on that one. I honestly, until I know an answer, like, because I know Stallion had sent out an email recently that said, hey, we're trying to figure it out. We're trying, we're talking to customs. We're talking to all this. We're trying to figure it out. We'll let you know as soon as possible. Until I heard a follow-up email to that, I was just like, you know what? I'm just done here with that portion of it, at least. Yeah, I've still got other items like through eBay that are going to the US, but eBay won't automatically cancel my order and refund the buyer if it doesn't start tracking in 7 days. So, that adds a complexity with Poshmark.
Have you, in the past day, shipped something to the US? I'm just wondering if you've noticed any new drop boxes, like when you're actually shipping something, because that was a new drop box for me. Was like there's a separate description and then origin of manufacturer.
So I haven't done anything on Stallion since probably what's the day, the 6th, or probably the 3rd.
Yeah, I mean on Canada Post through eBay though.
On eBay, I did just buy 2 labels, Canada Post Tracked Packet USA, and they were the same price they always have been. There were no new drop downs or anything. I just did it through the app on the phone like I always do. I've always had, not always, but within this last year, had to put in like that HF's tariff code. Like for clothing, it's 3926-20 or something like that. And so those items have always been there. I didn't notice anything new, at least on the eBay app, for getting those 2 packages. But
interesting. I like that you mentioned Tabs earlier there too. Did you see she put her first video out in like a month or something? It was really nice to see. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And, I welcomed her back in the comments there. It's a grind doing YouTube, like big time.
It sure is. And I mean, I've definitely fallen off here this last month or so. Just just so much else going on, trying to like just staying busy with just, life things and whatever. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, it's been 10 days and I haven't put up a video or whatever. Like, so it's easy to get out of. It's really, really easy just to like get out of the schedule and be like, oh wait, what am I doing here? I got to start doing YouTube again. Like I'm a YouTuber. But yeah, so yeah, it was good to see her back. Because yeah, it had been a while for sure.
Yeah, it's weird. I know for me, I feel like I have this. It probably is some sort of sickness you can diagnose. I feel like I have an obsession with just needing to hit the targets that I put in for most things. Whether it's listing every single day, I put like a lot of pressure on me. Where if I didn't list tomorrow, nothing would happen. It's not like somebody would knock on my door and say, "Hey, you didn't list today. Your reselling career is over."
Right.
I don't know what you think you're doing, but if you don't, it's not like that. It's the same with YouTube. I just get into, I guess I'm a creature of habit, and I just like that. And I feel obligated to do it. Although the obligation's only on me, obviously nobody else has got a gun to my head saying, list this, upload this,
Right.
or anything. It's just the, the way that my brain's wired, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm definitely like that with a lot of things. I guess my problem is I'll try to juggle like 2 or 3 or 4 things that take up time in my week. And then all of a sudden I'll realize, oh, wait, I haven't done one out of these 4 in like 2 weeks now. So there's only so much capacity. I've got room for like 3 things, but I'm always trying to edge in a 4th. And then it's like, I don't know if you've ever seen this little clip from Family Guy where I don't know, like Chris is trying to do something. He ends up like maybe poking his nose and is like, great, now I can do this, but I forget math or something like that. So it's like, I don't have any room left. So I learn something new or I do something new and it pushes something out. And luckily I can still do math because I do that for a living. But yeah, it's just interesting how it works with me. It's so easy for me to like get away from something. Like even thinking about the new year, one of my things was, all right, I'm just going to get back into like daily meditation and stuff. And man, I love it. Like it's such a good practice. And then all of a sudden it's, oh crap, I haven't done that for 2 weeks. Like, yeah. How did 2 weeks go by already? You think I'll take a day off and it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. I don't know what. Oh yeah, I think I've probably fell off of like 90% of my New Year's resolutions. The only one that I've kept so far is I'm still trying to get into Florida shape. So I've been eating better. I definitely know I haven't really been like I don't like to step on the scale all the time because it can be discouraging. But yeah. I know I definitely have lost a little bit of weight because some of my tight pants are fitting me proper again, stuff like that. So that's good. That's a good one. I really need to get back into exercise. It used to be such a huge part of my life. I've had like a lot of issues, like an old man with my hips, and it makes it really hard to be motivated. I'm sure exercise would probably help that problem, not hurt that problem, but hard to be motivated when don't feel very mobile.
No, absolutely. And I mean, definitely when the weather gets nicer and it's not -20 and icy out there, I'm going to get back into the running and stuff. And then I'll be playing ball in the spring, and I'm so pumped for that. But yeah, it is just interesting how quickly you can fall out of a routine. So I'm kind of jealous of you that you've got that like just hardwired in there. Like I got to do the YouTube, I got to do the listing, I got to do the whatever, because sometimes I wake up and realize, crap, it's been, a week, it's been 2 weeks, it's been whatever. And do I still do this thing? And
yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's a blessing and a curse because it keeps me consistent, but it also makes me feel crazy sometimes. So, it's not all positive. I can tell you that for sure. Yeah, our weather's been crazy the last little bit too. We've got snow, and then this like last night we got freezing rain and snow on top of it. It was definitely one of those weather conditions where I needed to drive today, so I had to. Buses were canceled, schools were canceled. It's pretty miserable. It's like one of those times where you're lucky to have hydro. It's like, that's part of living in Canada. We've really had it. I've had it really good this year. I haven't had crazy weather. This has probably been the worst, maybe like 4 weeks of it so far.
Yeah, we've had, I've got like a decent amount of snow built up at the end of the driveway and stuff where it's been shoveled, but it hasn't been anything too crazy yet. We've had some cold weather recently, like some -15 that feels like -23 or stuff like that, so there's been a bit of a cold stretch. But as far as the actual like conditions and stuff for driving, it hasn't been that bad. We've lucked out really well. There was the other night where it like got above freezing and we had like some rain and freezing rain, and then it like flash froze back down to like -11. And that next morning, things were icy. I had to drive just down across the road to my storage unit, and it was like, okay, just getting to my car was an adventure. But other than that, it hasn't been too bad, and yeah, we haven't lost our power or anything. So fingers crossed. We're halfway through it. So
Yeah, yeah, we're probably through the worst half. The end of winter is the one that drives me crazy, where they give you a glimpse of nice weather and then hammer you with snow again. It's like, no, we're supposed to be done with that. But
yeah. Yeah, the 16-degree March day, and then the next day is like a foot of snow.
yeah, that's always charming. How about eBay in general for you? I know, it's going to be eBay and Poshmark Canada for you for at least a month, right? Until things kind of are a little more in stone. But how's that going? Have you been seeing sales pick up, slow down?
Yeah, so sales on eBay, well, sales overall the last couple of weeks were definitely very good, back up to, great kind of numbers. A lot of that, though, is me listing and selling a lot of my own personal collection of video games. So it's not even necessarily like reselling stuff. It's just extra items that are helping to boost those sales. So, I mean, obviously I'll take it. I'm not complaining. I'll take the money. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's been pretty good. I've made a lot more international sales, which is great, like because I'm using Stallion, and I feel more comfortable and secure in getting reasonable pricing for, shipping things around the world. So I've been making more sales to like Germany, Austria, the UK, sold a shirt to Italy. I actually just sold a video game going to Japan, which is kind of cool. For half the price that it would cost me to send my next door neighbor the same video game, which is interesting, like through Canada Post. But so yeah, I mean, sales are good and sales are up there. But I did notice this week, and I've had a couple of customers message me and say, "Hey, I accepted the offer," or "Thank you for accepting my offer, but I can't pay for this. It's not letting me check out and actually pay for the item. Like there's no button for it. Like I can't even do it. There's obviously something wrong with eBay." I had this one woman like really upset. She's like, "I'm trying to pay, and like, can you reset it from your end?" And I was like, "Well, I think what I can do is I can go in, I'll go in on the browser and like try to send you an invoice, and hopefully that'll trigger like a new place that you can go in and process the payment." And that did work, but yeah, I think there's been some glitchiness going on because sales are definitely way down this week. Just completely fell off the cliff. But what do you do?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I've had the payment issues before where somebody says they can't pay, and that even where they said I've paid with this card before, I don't know what the issue is. But yeah, it's never seems to get necessarily resolved exactly either. But yeah, sending an invoice is usually your best option, right? Because at least then it is another payment option if somebody can get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've noticed sales have maybe dropped down a little bit. I had a couple of better sales that helped me get closer to my goal of my sales goal for the week. But the amount of effort I've been putting in has not gave me the same reward I assumed maybe I would at this point. But it's just somewhat time of year too, right? Like I don't know that January typically starts off good and then kind of slows right down. And then I think this part of February, you might see a pickup again, but then there's so many other uncertainties going on with other things. And who knows if even eBay themselves sort of puts the brakes on a little bit if they're like kind of worried about what's happening globally. Like maybe they don't want a whole bunch of extra problems if they're not sure how things are going to, get there or be an issue at the border or that or the other.
I wouldn't put it past them to like, somewhere in that algorithm to suppress views or whatever on for US buyers. Like who knows, right? I will say Facebook Marketplace has been decent for me because I'm putting a lot of my video game stuff up on there as well. The things that if I don't want to make individual listings for like $5 to $10 games or something, I'll just put a stack of them and say, $5 each or something, all in one listing, which is good. And maybe this is a good time for me to segue into my sale of the week. What do you think? Should I go ahead?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. All right. So I was racking my brain about this before we got on this because, yeah, I mean, it has been a weird week for sales, but my sale of the week is actually on Facebook Marketplace, and it's actually two different transactions, but with the same guy who lives like just a few towns over from me. He bought, say, on a Tuesday. So on Tuesday he bought like just this stack of PS2 games, and it was like $100 worth of games. And then just a couple days later, he's like, "Oh, hey, I noticed your other listing here that has like some better games in it, some more higher end. Do you have any other ones?" Like, I'm going for a full North American PlayStation 2 set of games, which is just a stupid amount of games. Like, I don't know what the number is, but it's well over 1,000. It might even be over 2,000. Like, it's a stupid amount of PS2 games. But he's like, "I'm going for the full set. So yeah, like, do you got any other ones? Because I might buy another stack from you. Like, I just got your other box of games. Thanks for that." So he bought another few for another $100. So within a couple of days, he bought $200 worth of PS2 games from me, and paid for the shipping in a flat rate box to go a couple towns over. And so, I mean, there's no fees on that, which is great. Like, I think if I sell like a $5 to $7 video game on eBay, by the time I take the fees off of that, because they charge the fees on the shipping and the tax and stuff too, right? It's like maybe I'll clear like $2 profit. So this way here, I'm actually getting my full value for it. So yeah, it was good. And we've opened up that little line of communication now. So he's going to send me a list. I told him, I was like, "Look, you send me a list if you have like a spreadsheet or something of the games you still need for your collection. And I'll go through my collection. I'll talk to my buddy, because I know my buddy Fred is looking to sell some of his as well. And who knows, I might be able to get like hundreds more dollars out of this guy who's going for this complete set, which is absolutely nuts again."
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's always good to get a relationship where you're feeding somebody else's addiction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not a video game pusher.
Yeah. Yeah. "Hey man, I got what you need.
$15, little man. Put that in my hand. If that money doesn't show, then you owe me, oh."
Yeah, exactly.
Show up with a trench coat full of PS2 games.
Like, was it Jay and Silent Bob?
Yeah.
That's a great joke. Yeah. So I had this is a really super quick sale. So I went into my antique mall, and I was talking to the owner, and I seen he had an Xbox Crystal sitting there. Oh, nice. I'm like, "Oh," I said, "Hey, that's really cool. Who's that, yours?" And he's like, "Yeah, some kid walked in. Really, he needed money for lunch money or something, and he wanted $20 for this and this crappy controller, which wasn't an OEM controller or anything, but it has no cables or anything." I said, "Well, I think I have cables for the original Xbox. I could try to test it out for you." So I picked it up. Instantly, it had a rattle inside. You could hear something rattle, and I'm like, "Okay, well, that's a bad start." Took it home. It did power on, but for whatever reason, the AV cables that I have, and whether it's my cables or not, I don't know, because I don't have another system right now. I couldn't get it to come up on the screen, but it would power on, and that's as far as I could get. So I took it back to him and said like, "This is parts and repair." I'm like, he's like, "Okay, do you want to give me?" He basically said, "Would you pay me $20? Could you sell it?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm like, I'll give you 40 because I'm pretty sure I can get closer to $100 for it. Just the case is probably worth that." So I listed this for console only. I didn't even throw in the fake controller with it. $100 USD. Instantly got two people, bidding back and forth. Started at 50, back and forth, and somebody came in with a $90 US offer, and I'm like, "You just bought it."
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah, and that happened really quick. And that's on the high end of what a parts and repair machine's worth anyway. But the case is like, it looks perfect. So I'm like, someone's buying it likely for the case. And who knows, they might get it and it might actually work, because I only tested as far as I could. I assume my cables were okay, but you never know.
You never know. And I mean, like, that rattle could be just that, there's something very simple that's let go. Anybody who has like basic solder skills and knows what it looks like inside might be able to go in there, 30 seconds later, put something back in place. There you go. It works perfectly. Like there's so many things like, you know, with those consoles that, I mean, if you know that console, it's worth picking it up. Like even for them at that price. Cause I mean, if they know how to fix that and that's a 5-minute thing for them and whatever, I mean, they can make some money off of that for sure. So like, that's a good deal for you. Your buddy doubled up. That other person might make money. Like, yeah, I like sales like that. Everybody wins.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause that's easy. It's like a working machine. It's like 200 plus, I think. Like they're valuable. So are the clear ones are really good. And have you ever seen there's sort of like it's a clear, but it's army green clear. I think it might've been a Halo one or something.
Yeah. I used to have one of those back in the day, and I honestly can't remember what happened to it. Some of that is because that I led a little bit of a different lifestyle back then, so there's a chance I'm just not remembering. But honestly, I don't know whatever happened to it, and I mean they're worth a decent amount now for sure. I've got the clear green controller that goes to that console. Like I still have that at home here, and that's like the one that I use if I ever do fire up my Xbox. But yeah, those green ones are great. Those crystal ones, like I see them on Marketplace around here sometimes, usually for like $250, even $300, and it's like, honestly, if that's what you wanted in your own collection, even that's a decent price, because otherwise you go on eBay, you're paying that plus shipping plus tax. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I never really like got into the Xbox back in the day, but I love the Xbox.
Yeah, it's fun. That is the one that I actually had. I had the clear one, and then I won, or actually my dad won an Xbox 360 at a work event, and he's like, "You want this thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do."
Sure do. Thanks, Pop.
Yeah, and that was the end of my Xbox. My kids both love Xbox, and I'm a PlayStation guy. Everything else I've ever had has been PlayStation.
Okay.
Yeah, my kids are all about Xbox still. It's a big thing. It just I like Sony better.
Yeah, I'm kind of impartial. I like it all, but I stayed with the PS2 right up until the day I got an Xbox 360, and it was like the 360 had been out for a while, and my buddies finally convinced me to get one so that we could play Call of Duty together. They're like, "Oh, you have no idea." And then that consumed my life for a few years, and then I finally got out of it. But yeah, so I've got good experience with both. But now, honestly, I've been playing the Switch, and almost exclusively the Switch, for like the last year.
Yeah, I remember playing Xbox 360, and my gamer tag, it was Jamie on Fire, which is part of the reason why, Thrift Onfire. And even at that time, it was still more of a play of like on Alexis on Fire and a whole bunch of other things, right? But I remember playing Halo, and some kids like, "Jamie on Fire, you're not on fire at all. You suck." How do you mute these kids? This is horrible.
Yeah, getting roasted by kids who are so much better than you at gaming is just like, it's embarrassing, it's humbling, but it's entertaining for sure.
Yeah.
Especially now that I'm old and I suck at games, and I go on there and I'm like, wait, how do you, like, I tried playing a Call of Duty game, like one of the recent ones, down at my buddy's place when I popped in one day, and I hadn't played a Call of Duty for years at this point, and I've got no coordination at all. I'm trying to like shoot, and I'm just missing completely, just getting completely just wiped off the map. I'm like, I can no longer do this. I don't have the skill set to even do this anymore.
Yeah, well, it depends so me and my wife, we haven't played so much recently, but we do play Call of Duty together quite often.
Okay.
And she played the first game she ever played that was a shooter game, had the inverted controllers, which are backwards to like anybody else's brain who plays like a modern shooter. But the first thing she does is invert the controller. So it's like, if she's got to get up and do something and hand you the controller, it's like, I can't use this. It's just a mess.
Okay, see, now you say that, but I use inverted controls too, for the up and down, right? Yes. Obviously not side to side, but yeah. See, now I can't play it the standard way like you would. That to me doesn't make any sense, because I'm thinking about like flying a plane, right? You want to go up, you pull back. You want to go down, you push forward. That's the way my brain works.
Yeah, I have definitely played games that forced you to do that, but I mean, that doesn't seem natural for sure.
Yeah, my buddy Fred roasts me all the time about that. He's got several very inappropriate and not suitable for YouTube names for me because of the way I invert my controls.
That's great. Any big plans here for what do we got coming up? Do you guys? Yeah, Family Day weekend. You get that?
Yeah, I think it might be called Heritage Day here. It's something day. But yeah, we do have it. So we got a long weekend coming up. I've actually got some dog sitting going on in the next couple of weeks. Like this weekend coming up, I've got 2 nights away, just 10 minutes up the road. And then later this month, possibly another 10 nights with the same folks. So, there's like kind of my extra cash and stuff, but I'll be kind of tied down to that location mostly because those dogs are very anxious and don't do well alone for more than a couple of hours. But, try to get out and do a little bit of just local sourcing, like just hitting up my local like clothing store and whatnot. And there's really not much else around here this time of the year, especially. So I've been just trying to, every time I go to town or something, just pop in and browse around, like grab a couple of things and get them listed when I can.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I've kind of hit the end of my death pile. So I've been sourcing a little bit more often. Like today, for instance, I think I hit maybe 3 places while I was out. I only found 2 things. That doesn't really, track very well if you're trying to list, right? So when you don't have anything, so I'm like, oh yeah, like when I had a bunch of stuff and I was going out and finding a couple things, I was excited about it because these are really good things to find. It's tough. It's tough to find good stuff in the thrift store. I know tomorrow is a 50% off day for our local Goodwill. I think pretty much all the Goodwills in this area are 50% off. But I went today and just sort of like went around to see if there was anything there that's overpriced that I might jump on. But I couldn't even find. I found a Marlins jersey that's floral and bought it because it was misplaced in the women's shirt section because it's like a floral print. But it was like a stadium giveaway. And the funny thing is I looked at it after I got it home, which was just recently, and I'm like, oh, this is actually made in China.
Oh, crap.
So I'm like, oh, is this even worth listing now? I don't know.
Yeah, seriously. Oh my. Yeah, no, it's funny this time of the year, man. I just gotta like, I typically in the New Year's kind of go through all my own personal stuff and say, all right, what can I sell? Because it's the only way that I'm going to be able to regularly list. Because unless I get lucky and I'm able to get like really good like clothing hauls and stuff from my couple of local stores, because I also don't like going out and doing like long drives around the area. Road conditions might not be great an hour away, and then I get caught in a freak snowstorm, and it's just I don't know, man. I'm just getting too old for this crap. I don't want to be driving around like for 4 or 5 or 6 hours hitting up all these different stores in the wintertime, because I honestly just never know when a storm's going to hit or something, and I'd rather stay a little bit closer to home. So yeah, I go through my own stuff and kind of take inventory of my own video games. And so that will continue to supplement me over probably the next month, but I'm going to run out of stuff of that I want to sell as well. So hopefully I can get a couple of good hauls here soon. But
yeah, this is a good time of year though to dig through your stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I know that I've just, it's not that it's bad stuff. It's just like, oh, like you didn't list it, or maybe it needs more attention than you wanted to do at some point. I'm trying to get that stuff out of the way so I legitimately have like nothing around that's, just sitting here doing nothing. But, it's not a lot of fun to do either.
No, it's not.
We do have an indoor yard sale this weekend in a little neighboring town, maybe about 10 minutes away, called Port Rowan. It's got like a community. My dad actually pointed it out to me. He's like, hey, what are you doing Saturday? And I'm like, oh, so I told him whatever I had to do in the afternoon. He's like, did you know about this? And he shows me the newspaper. I'm like, newspaper? What kind of thing what is this? This exists?
Yeah, what is this?
Yeah. And it said it's like, I think it might be put on by like, I don't think it's Ducks Unlimited, but it's like Long Point something.
Okay.
It's like it's like a local thing. And they do, it says yard sale items and liquidation items and stuff. And so I'm going to go check it out. It might be good.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, that's the kind of thing where you could go there and it could be absolute trash, or you could go there and be able to be like, yeah, I'll take all of these and then make $1,000 or something, you know, like you never know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You just don't know. I think if you don't, like, I would have never even seen that. And like newspaper or print media is not something I look at. When I was working at my factory job, somebody would have a paper there, maybe like the Toronto Sun, and I'd look through it. Maybe sometimes it'd be a local paper, and I'd look through it just because you're sitting there bored at work, right?
Right.
My everyday life, or like when I'm removed from those situations, I would never look at a newspaper because I wouldn't be anywhere where there would be one.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually seen one physically in what feels like years.
Yeah, for sure. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much. Let us know in the comments below what you thought about this episode. We try not to get too political here, but obviously there's a lot of things going on within Canada, between Canada and the US, that's affecting us as resellers and, you know, just people as a whole. Anyway, if you guys do like videos like this one, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing for more content. We'll see you guys on the next episode.